Well, we made it. We're here.
We
It's
did.
been a long time coming, but welcome to Off Script.
Welcome to script.
We've been talking about doing this for a while. Uh, we've attempted a few episodes,
Many times.
uh,
Finally did it.
but we're finally here. I'm Brian. I'm film team manager here at Long Hollow.
I'm Joseph. I'm another filmmaker.
What's up, guys? And I'm Taylor, one of the other filmmakers on the team. Come on.
Let's go. So we'll jump into it.
Okay.
A lot of people might be asking why start a podcast when there are a million out there, right?
Yeah.
I think for us, the primary reason is we just want to be a resource. There are a lot of resources out there, and people watch YouTube and listen to podcasts for a variety of different reasons. But I think being in the church space it gives us a unique opportunity, right, to blend both film and our faith, right?
That's good.
And so I don't know that I've seen a lot of resources out there that are kind of blending both of those and doing it at a high level. So I think for us, like, we want to be able to be a resource to others, and it may not be just filmmakers; it may be other creatives. So you could be a photographer or someone on production, a graphic designer, and a volunteer. Like, I don't know that this is necessarily geared specifically towards film. I would hope that we can have some things that guests and some topics that are far-reaching, and can reach people outside the film world. But yeah, we want to be a resource to people, and we hope that, I think, with each episode, people can get something out of it. The whole episode may not necessarily be for everybody, but I think if there's a little nugget or a tip or a trick or something that that we cover, I hope that people can take something away from it. What do you guys think?
I mean that makes sense. Brian brought it to us about just kind of starting a podcast, and I think being on our Instagram, that was kind of our heart, was we want to be able to steward. And now Brian has a heart for stewarding. So I was all the way down for this podcast. So, I think my heart is that, again, whether you're new to filmmaking or whatever, like, we just want you to, again, I think we're going to beat this horse over and over, but we want you guys just to leave with something and to fall in love with filmmaking, same as us. So,
Yeah, I totally agree, guys. When Brian brought it to the table, I was like, man, I'm very stoked to be able to just like have a conversation with our team, but also like just be that resource to other churches and to other filmmakers, other creatives. Because like Brian said, like, I feel like just in the church creative world, we don't see that many podcasts that like really dive into resources, really dive into like what it's like to be a good steward and to serve our community, serve our brothers and sisters. But then also like, hey, like, we're really dialed in on our craft. Like, you know the gear, you know what's going on in the creative world. So I feel like this is gonna be the best of both worlds. So excited to do this with you guys, man.
I think something that's cool is that, like, we're not filmmakers who happen to be Christians. We're Christians who happen to be filmmakers.
Yeah,
so I think that's also a big part of it too, because I think we've seen a lot of podcasts where it's just like they'll talk about film, they'll talk about movies, they'll do all this stuff. But I think having Christ at the center is what makes this podcast, and not saying other podcasts don't, but I would say it makes ours a little bit different, is that we're operating from a place of victory. Like, we're operating from who Christ has made us to be. And that happens to be a conduit for creativity, a conduit for filmmaking and all that stuff. So, yeah, I'm just super excited to get started with it. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I think some people may be asking, like, what are we going to cover on the podcast? I think one, just like talking about what's day-to-day life like, as a filmmaker at a church. So maybe giving people a little, like, peek behind the curtain, if you will. I think too, like, if we get new gear or we're interested in gear, like, I think it could also be some gear talk too. I'm a big gear nerd.
talk shop.
And so yeah, I think talking through some of the latest gear that's out, or things that we use on a regular basis that we feel like are important tools. I would say that we're not gear chasers by any stretch of the imagination, but if there's something out there that I think could benefit us, or help us do our job more efficiently, like we're definitely going to look at it. We'd love to have guests on, so that could be other church staff that we work with or work alongside. And I think even people outside the church that we've met over the last few years being here, we've met some other like really incredible like Christian creatives here in Nashville, and I would love to bring those people on and maybe give our audience like a little bit of a different viewpoint, from outside the church. I definitely want to show people what it's like being in the church, um, and how we can relate to other churches.
Yeah.
But also, like, there are people that other churches could potentially partner with, like freelancers that are in their city or their town,
Yeah.
that are also faith based, that could potentially bring value to their church, whether they're a gaffer or a director or a whatever.
Yeah.
So I definitely would like to bring some people in that we could interview and just pick their brain and kind of see what life is like for them as a Christian. Maybe they're working in a secular space,
Sure.
and what's life like um, in that space where um, they have to really protect their faith, working around other people who don't believe
Yeah.
the same thing as them. So I think those are just a few of the things that we can cover. Anything you guys want to dive into in future episodes?
Man, that is a great question.
Good question.
Man, I definitely think that just, I mean, I've kind of come from like the sports world previously to this, and I think like even tying in, like you said, Brian, like just other like freelancers in the city, things like that. I think like even maybe tying in some of those sports creatives as well, because I think just being in ministry and being a church creative and then being in sports and being a sports creative, they're very, very similar in like very high demand. What I've noticed, very high demand.
Yeah.
Could have limited resources, depending on the team or depending on the church. But just like seeing like kind of what both of those perspectives would be like, and bringing one of them on the show could be super cool too. So excited for that.
Yeah. I mean, I think you guys pretty much got it all covered. I think one thing that we missed that I kind of wanted to say is we don't have it all together. I feel like we say that. I feel like we've said that before,
Yeah.
and I just kind of want to reiterate that we do not have it together. This is something that we've all kind of over years have figured out how to be able to work our craft and grow and things like that. And I know we talked about just kind of going into that today, but um, that's just something that I really want to reiterate. And I think something that's important for us is like you don't have to have a bunch of gear to be able to do
Okay.
high quality work.
100%.
So I think a part of it too is just like, hey, you can use one light, you could use some diffusion, you could use the sun, but just knowing how to do that properly is also something that's important. I know that kind of like
Yeah.
veered off just a little bit, but
I think that's awesome, man. Because I
yeah.
think like a lot of times as creatives as a whole, like I know like for just I guess for all creatives in general, like we face like imposter syndrome. We face like these things that
all the time.
we see on social media of like people were like, man, like dang, how do they do social strategy like that? Or how do they make a film like that? Or
Yeah,
I wish we
yeah.
had all this gear or whatever.
Doom scrolling, bro.
Yeah, and doom
Yeah.
scrolling. But I feel like that's like a lot of times like what we struggle with too, just like as creatives in general. And I think it's important to remember, like you said, man, like, we don't have it all together. Like we are imperfect as a whole. And only God is perfect. So we
That's
can
good.
operate within that of knowing that like, hey, even if we don't have the latest gear, even if we don't have the huge budget or whatever, God is still sovereign. He's still in control. So we can operate with what we have
There you go.
within
You
us.
got it. You got there. You
Yeah,
got there.
tripping
Proud
over
of
the
you.
words there. It's
Proud of you,
early
bro.
this morning. It's early. But yeah, man. So excited to dive in that with you guys. So,
But I guess we can kind of like dive in, Brian. You want to talk about kind of what got you into film? I mean, we don't have to go crazy, but just what kind of got you here, being film manager on the team, and just maybe like what you went through because you weren't always a filmmaker, right? So you got to this
Right.
point now. So what's kind of been your journey?
Yeah, so I think briefly before I was at church at Long Hollow, um, professionally I was with Fellowship of Christian Athletes as a creative director over 5 counties. So I was doing a lot of their film, photography, and graphic design. I don't have a background in graphic design. So that was literally like opening Photoshop and YouTube and like doing one
Yeah.
thing and
Pausing it.
and then watching a tutorial and then doing something else.
Yeah.
And it was fun. Like it was just I got to be creative. Obviously, I leaned more into the film and video side of things, but being able to also take photos and create a few graphics here and there, um, again, it stretched me creatively big time
Yeah.
because there was nobody else on the team that was going to do that, and so we didn't have the budget to outsource anything, so I couldn't call up graphic design friends and be like, hey, can you make this for me? It's just like, no, I gotta just wing it. So it was a lot of like Instagram inspo. I'd see things that I would want to create, but I'd have no clue how they made it. And so I would just have to come up with the words of like, I think it's this kind of texture. And then I would just YouTube, how do you Photoshop this kind of texture,
Yeah.
and watch tutorials. So I think that's very much my background. I can get into my full story later, but yeah, I think doing that for 2 years. Um, I was also volunteering here at the church during that time as well with the film team. And yeah, I think some of the people at church on the creative team were seeing some of the work that I was doing with FCA and then also seeing how I was helping with the volunteering with the film team. And so when they had a position come open a little over 3 years ago, um, had lunch with somebody on staff and they just said, hey, we think you should apply for this position. Obviously, we can't guarantee you that you're going to get it or not, but we just seeing the work you've been doing with FCA and being in ministry, we feel like it's something you should at least go for, and the rest is history, as they say. So
Here we are in the podcast.
here
We're
we are
here.
in the podcast. So yeah, I came on in late 2022, and in the beginning of 2024, I believe my dates are right, was asked to step into a leadership position for the film team. We had not had one um, prior to that time, and we just needed some direction, needed some structure to the team, and so was asked to do that, and was super honored. Probably a little nervous too, if I'm being honest. And so, yeah, here we are.
Cool. Let's go.
What about you, Joseph?
3 years later. So for myself, so I had graduated from film school back in 2017. And as it goes, once you kind of graduate from college, a lot of times you don't end up in the field that you graduate with.
Amen.
Yep.
But thankfully, after working some jobs, I kind of started getting into a little bit of television work. And television work is great, but it's not always stable. A lot of jumping around, a lot of moving parts. And then I actually moved up so I'm from Ohio. I'm an Ohio boy. But I moved up to Cleveland, where I worked at a church, where I kind of was more so in production, actually. I'd done some freelance stuff, but I was working a switcher. I wasn't around really cameras that much. We did a little bit of camera work here and there, but more production. And thankfully, through the grace of God, I had just put in my application here at Long Hollow. Got a text from Brian. We kind of started up a conversation. And I've been here now for 2 years. And now, like, getting to work with you guys every day, getting to serve in the church it's crazy. It's a whirlwind. Just trusting God with my creative path, my creative career has been a little nerve-wracking at times. I probably have taken the steering wheel more than I'd like to admit. But God's been in control. So that's kind of a very, very brief
Let's go.
place to how I got here. Tay, what
Let's
about
go,
you, man?
Yeah, man. Well, I come from the social space. I come from social media management. That's kind of been my background. I got into that. Let me see, going into my senior year of high school. Believe it or not. So I've been doing that for like 7, 8 years now. A friend of mine had like a real estate internship that turned into hey, we need someone to run social. Like, would you wanna do that? And like I just kind of dove in head first into that, and kind of from there graduated high school, went to Grand Canyon University out in Arizona. So I'm from Arizona originally, which is pretty crazy. 'Cause we're out here in Tennessee, Long Hollow Church. Come on, just to remind the viewers, you know. But yeah, man. So come from social media management, and then from there, it's just like, man, like what tools do you need to be good at social media management? Like, obviously, I was more on the strategy side, but then it's like, well, you know, be able to produce the content too, right? So got to be good at photo. So I dug into photography a ton. Was able to work in sports doing social and photography. And then it's like, well, you also need some video elements. Like reels are huge, like shorts are huge. And so that's kind of where I dug into more film and um, just really like kind of went down rabbit holes of like different awesome filmmakers that we all love, like Danny Verts and all those guys.
Yeah, Mark Bone.
Yeah, Mark Bone.
Yes, sir.
And so yeah, man, kind of from there, it's been probably about let's see, about two years that I've been doing film. But then other than that, I mean, Long Hollow Church, I've been here for 3 months.
Let's go.
Three months. Let's go. So I'm newer to the team, but it's been a joy working with you guys. New guy on the team,
New
you know?
filmmaker on the team.
New
Absolutely.
filmmaker on the team.
Absolutely.
But yeah, man, I'm thankful to be able to work with you guys, and
Yeah.
it's been a joy, man. So
Yeah.
I'm thankful.
I guess I should have said. I guess I didn't really specify how long I've been in film. So 5, 6 years. It's weird, man. Time in film, time flies.
Time flies, man.
Time flies, and it's crazy because like when you look back, I was talking to one of our designers here at the church, and she was like, "You should be." As you continue to grow, you should look back at your work and almost like not like be embarrassed of your work, but be like, "Man, I could improve on it." And looking back, golly, golly, it's been
Yeah, man.
it has been a journey. It has been a journey, but God's been faithful. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think to that point, you know, a lot of stuff that we created in the beginning of our careers, you know, um, you look back on it and it's a little eye opening. You know?
Yeah.
it can be hard to watch.
Not to go down a rabbit hole, but like I was dumping some footage from last year onto my hard drive at home, and just look back on some of my very early stuff that I thought was fire at the time. You know, not fire. Not fire. It was not fire. It was not good. But you have to start somewhere. You know,
you have to.
And I think too, like not to over spiritualize it, but I think, you know, if you've got your priorities right, you know, I think God's going to take care of us. You know, if you keep your creativity grounded and centered in Him, and you're doing things for the right reasons, right? You're not just like trying to chase fame or accolades or whatever. I think those things will come if you can keep your priorities straight. And so I think for me personally, and you guys may agree or may not, but like I think for me, you know, you have to kind of go through those seasons where some of the things that you create just they're not that great creatively, you know. But again, I think if your heart posture is in the right place, and you're just doing the best that you can, I think the Lord's going to bless that and open the doors and hopefully, you know, give us more opportunities to do bigger and bigger projects, work with bigger and better people, and have those opportunities. So I think for me, you know, looking back on that stuff, it wasn't great. But you had to go through that, you know, to get to where we are today. So yeah, I think those things are all important as we grow as creatives, you know, and strive to get better and better and be more creative and do things with excellence. So would you guys agree?
100%. I totally agree with that. I think even to the point of just like looking back at like old work. I feel like not too long ago I looked at my 2020 graphic design skills. Keep in mind I'm not a graphic designer. Some Canva work. It was pretty crazy. Nothing wrong with Canva, but I definitely did not know how to use it at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just like it's part of the journey, man, and you know, we can rejoice in just the good God that we serve. And like you said, Brian, I mean, you know, we work wholeheartedly. Colossians 3, we see that in Scripture. You know, working wholeheartedly unto the Lord. I think Colossians 3:23 is like just a verse that I hold very close to myself, and just to like just work ethic and things like that. So excited to see like what the Lord continues to do at Long Hollow Church and just with like other creatives in the space because it can definitely be if you don't have the Lord as front and center, it can definitely be a challenging journey, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we're thankful, man.
I mean, I would say, for me at least, looking back on our work, it is tough. But the big thing I would challenge everyone that's kind of watching is you have to take the first step. Like we
Yeah.
all did it.
That's
You
true.
know, the people that you watch on YouTube, the people that you admire are the people who took that first step. They had to move forward. And it's not going to be perfect. And I think something that I wish someone probably would have told me when I first got into this is like, one, you're not going to have it all together. You're not going to be perfect. Two, find resources. Like, look for people in your area that are doing what you do and seek them out. Like, I wouldn't say like I almost said with a vengeance. Seek them with a vengeance, but no, seek them with passion. Seek them with a desire to learn. Don't come to them asking for work, but come to them humbly and just simply be like, "Hey, I'm new. I don't know what I'm doing. Can you kind of um, shepherd me or steward me?" In one, I mean, last thing is just seek God in prayer. Like
Mm.
Yeah.
there's so many projects. Every project we start, um, we always start with prayer, making sure that God is going before the project, that we're not trying to run in front of God, but that we're walking with Him, um, or even that He's leading the project. Um, but that would be my biggest thing. That'd be my biggest takeaway. Do you guys have any like just simple steps that you feel like just
Man.
like if you're starting out or if you're new, just as we close, like what are just some simple tips that like say I'm a new filmmaker and I'm watching this for the first time, you know, where do I start? How do I get started?
Yeah, man. I think, like you said, reaching out to local creatives. I think that's huge because, like, I feel like people aren't like it can feel like intimidating at first, right?
Yeah,
You're like,
like
man,
there's
I'm
a
like
wall.
DMing this person, or I'm, texting them, or I met them through mutuals or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, dude, a lot of people are more willing than you totally think. Like, I
Mhm.
feel like if people like, there's been people who reached out to me, and I'm like, yeah, like let's like walk through it together. Like I have the time, like let's do it. Like
Yeah.
it's a blast, to like be able to serve in that way.
Yeah.
Um and it's like, yeah, I just feel like people are much more willing than you think. Like it can be a daunting task, but it's like, man, people are so much more willing than we think. So come on.
Yeah. Um, I think I think probably the one thing that I would give, maybe just in the context of this conversation, is um, it's not a competition,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
When I first started, especially doing freelance, I was always trying to be better and outdo the other creative film video guys like in my town. Of like I got to be better than those guys. You know, uh, why do they have a client that I don't have? Like I just have to outdo them so I can get that client or that type of client. And I think as I've matured over the last few years, just as a creative and as a man, I've realized that it's not about that. Like you're gonna go a lot further with other people than you are alone. And so even in the context of like a team, like when we have different projects, right? Like we're not trying to one up each other and say like, oh man, my project was awesome. I think we should all level each other up and try to make the projects the best that we can. Sometimes that's difficult feedback, right? It's feedback we don't, it hits us a certain kind of way and it's hard to hear. Sometimes it's inviting people into the project instead of just trying to do it on our own. It's saying, hey, you're better at audio than I am. Can you step into this project with me and make it better? Obviously that means you gotta give them the accolades for the audio side of things, right? But I think that means that again, as we mature, we realize that like I can't do it all on my own, and even if I could, that's probably not the best way to go about things, right? Like I think part of part of why we're doing this, part of why we're um, trying to build something on Instagram as well is we want to build creative community, right? We want um, we want to partner with other people. Again, like we mentioned earlier, we want to be a resource, but like we want people to feel like, man, there are some people at Long Hollow at the very least that are in my corner. They understand what I'm going through. They understand what I've been through. They have the same challenges and difficulties that I have, and so I think creating that relatable community is important. So I think that would probably be my takeaway there. Is just you can only go so far on your own, right? Like when you start to bring people into the process, and get people who are excellent at their craft, whatever that is, like it could be motion graphics or it could be whatever. Um, to me, that's when you really start to level up as a creative. When you start bringing people into the process. So, I think that's going to wrap it for today.
Indeed.
Let's go.
Hey, thanks for joining us on episode 1 of Off Script.
Let's go.
Yeah, hopefully we'll post. I think we're trying to look at every 2 weeks. So be on the lookout for the next episode. But in the meantime, y'all have a good one.
Let's go.
Let's go.